Hi, my name's Erin Morley, and I'm singing Zerbinetta in Ariadne auf Naxos. Ariadne auf Naxos is written for a chamber orchestra. It's quite unique. It's the smallest orchestra that you will find in any Strauss opera. And it's really chamber music. And in the orchestration, he features 3 different keyboard instruments. And Zerbinetta is represented by the piano. So we have the harmonium for Ariadne. It's a very small instrument. It sounds like an organ. And we have the celeste for Bacchus. But Zerbinetta has the piano, and I think it's a really smart choice because her character is very down to earth, and the piano is a very familiar instrument for us. And I think the percussive quality of the piano really helps us understand her quite well. She is fun and she's quick-witted, and her communication is always very direct, and she's very practical. We have these sort of 2 different sound worlds, and they are sometimes competing in this piece. We have the sound world of Ariadne, the opera diva, and we have the sound world of Zerbinetta, the comedian and the dancer, and they're completely different women with different philosophies of life. One of Zerbinetta's first entrances is a really great illustration of a transition between those 2 worlds. We have the composer spontaneously composing a melody that he might use for Ariadne, and the texture is really gentle. It's strings, it's sort of a 6/8 wafting meter, and immediately out of that comes Zerbinetta and her troupe of comedians with the instrument of the piano and a few woodwinds. Then the next section is upon us. These transitions move like lightning. And this is also a very classic Straussian moment where within the course of 1 page, we have experienced like 10 different keys. Now in the opera proper, we have a lot of fun with Zerbinetta and the piano. We have this amazing quintet that leads into Zerbinetta's aria. And this is another one of those very abrupt shifts from Ariadne's world into Zerbinetta's world. Ariadne is here singing this fantastic aria, Es gibt ein Reich, and it's really deeply philosophical, and it's quite sublime. It's the best moment in the opera, really. And Zerbinetta and her troupe of comedians come into the stage at the end of this really beautiful moment, and it's like they really kill that buzz. They break that spell with these staccato F minor chords with the piano. And that begins the quintet. The entire quintet features the piano until, little by little, Zerbinetta realizes they are not going to reach Ariadne unless she can talk to her directly, personally. So she dismisses the other characters, and one by one they leave the stage, and that is echoed also in the orchestra. Little by little, each instrument drops out until we are left with just Zerbinetta and the piano, and she's speaking directly to Ariadne. And it's so smart how Strauss does this, because immediately we're in a more intimate space. All of a sudden we are in somebody's living room, rather than in an opera house or a palace, and the communication becomes very honest. And Zerbinetta is really sort of saying to Ariadne, It's time to get real. You don't want to die. You just need a new man. You're not special. You're like all of us. You know, it's quite special how the first entire section of this aria is just Zerbinetta and piano. And then the instruments come in later. Something I find really interesting about the end of the prologue is there's this beautiful duet between the composer and Zerbinetta. And the piano is not featured in that duet. And I think this choice is you can interpret it in many ways, but I think Zerbinetta is taking a moment to speak the language of the composer, to enter his world. And you can maybe argue about why she does that. Maybe she's falling in love with him. Maybe she's being honest with her feelings for the first time. And it could also be that she's trying to get him on her good side so that this performance goes well, right? But either way, it's a really funny moment at the end of the duet when the piano does come in, and it breaks up this moment. And I think that is when Zerbinetta returns to herself. Usually in the staging, she's running off the set in that moment, realizing that she's got things to do or realizing that she's become too close to him. But it's a special moment that comes back later in the opera. I think the cleverness is in representing two totally different worlds with their characters in the orchestration. And in the end, we really discover that these two worlds are not that different. And I think that's maybe what's so charming about the opera. We realize that Zerbinetta and Ariadne are not that different from each other. I also like the idea that high art and low art are actually not that different from each other, and that one needs to find balance with those things. We have das Lustige und das Traurige, but both of those worlds inform one another. I think Ariadne and Zerbinetta learn from each other. And I think that's a beautiful message, that we need balance. And I try to echo that in my own artistic life.